Mazda Miata is the most raced car in the country, and the reason for that is because it's inexpensive, reliable, and has a huge aftermarket basis.
So today, we're gonna see if it lives up to the hype.
But not only are we gonna do a normal review of the NC Miata, we're also gonna figure out if this car is fun to drive even though it has an automatic transmission.
And we're gonna compare it to the new ND Miata.
So first, let's talk about the interior. So the first thing that I notice is the weird paddle shifters. There are 4 of them, 2 for down and 2 for up. The 2 for the down are on the top and the 2 for the up are behind where the normal paddle shifters would be. And I've driven this car before, so I can tell you it's something that you can get used to, but I don't like it. I don't honestly know why they put these paddle shifters in. I think it's because they made it so that you can just drive it one-handed, so you can downshift and upshift with one hand. I don't see why you'd want that, but I guess that's what the Mazda people thought of. The shifter feels fine. It's an automatic, so like, what do you really want from it? The tach is completely normal. They're just gauges. There's one little LED screen, and that just tells you stuff like your odometer. The rest of it is all gauges. It has oil pressure, temperature, the normal stuff. As far as the radio, it's just your normal 6 stations. It has dials that feel pretty sturdy. And so does the rest of the material. It's very plasticky, but at the same time, that's in an effort to stay lightweight. And the whole point of this car is to be lightweight. So if the materials don't feel amazing, I'm not upset because I don't expect luxury and leather from this car, even though the seats are leather. And they grip me all right. I'm a pretty skinny guy, and they're kind of the size of like a normal average American. That's a nice way to put it. But for me, they don't grip me amazingly. If I was gonna turn this car into a track car, the seats are definitely something that I would upgrade. So you don't have a center console in this car. Instead, where the center console would be, they have cup holders. But to make up for that, they have a very small storage space right here, in between the 2 seats. And when I say very small, I mean it. There is barely any space in there. Like, we have a hat in there. The glove box has the normal amount of room that a glove box would have, but this car should not be your daily driver. It's something that you should buy as a fun car, because the lack of space in this car would just make it very impractical for daily driving. Also, the fact that it's so low and the cabin is very small means that it would just become an uncomfortable car for long drives. It's not uncomfortably small, per se. Like, I could drive around here and I don't feel claustrophobic, but at the same time, if I was gonna do a long drive, this is not the car I'd wanna do it in. As for the soft top, it's pretty easy to remove and put back. The first time that I did it, I was like struggling. I had no idea how to do it, but now I could do it in like 5 seconds. It's not a pain. It's definitely much easier than you'd expect it to be. So as far as trunk space, just like the interior, there's not a lot of room. And now we're gonna do my favorite test to see if there is enough room to make this a normal daily driver. The answer is no. It does not pass the test. So don't expect to have this car as your daily driver that you can put luggage in, because it can barely fit me, and I'm not that big. And now the most important part of the Miata, the engine, which is very small. That was actually a joke because the Miata is known for having very little power. So one question that we're gonna try to answer today is this enough power to have fun? Sure, in the twisties and the canyons, this car is amazing, but in everyday driving, can this car still be fun? Because this has a 2-liter 4-cylinder that only produces 167 horsepower and 140 foot-pounds of torque. So before we set off in the NC Miata, first let me mention something that I was questioning when I first got in this car. The AC does work when the roof is up. Like, you can actually cool the interior despite it being a soft top. I didn't expect that. Okay, let's go. Now again, this is the automatic transmission, so yeah, that's a thing. So let's switch it into paddle shifter mode and see how it does on the straight. So it's not powerful by any means. It's definitely something that you can drive and get to freeway speed, you'll be fine. I've driven some cars that can barely make it to freeway speed. That's not this. This can definitely make it to freeway speed, but by no means is it fast. Like I mentioned, the paddle shifters are fine. You can get used to them, but it's not as much fun as the shifting, in my opinion. But as for the overall experience, we'll have to see. Despite it being a paddle shifter and not manual, it's still a lot of fun to rev out this engine. Like, it's not powerful, so you have to rev it all the way to the red line to get the most horsepower out of it, and I like that. That's a lot of fun. That's something that you can't do in the Hellcat that we reviewed, because at the red line, you're gonna die. Oh my God. Another 0 to 60, and I'll walk you through the speeds that we're going so you can get an idea. So full stop. 20. 40, yeah. I'm not sure what the 0 to 60 time is in this car, but it's probably around 7 seconds. It's nothing impressive. But enough about the engine, because that's not why you buy this car. You buy this car because of how it handles. And it does that amazingly. You know exactly where you're gonna be with the wheel, and this car can turn as hard as you're willing to push it. I found my limits before this car finds its. It has such a good weight distribution, and the steering is tuned so precisely that this car is so much fun. And that's why it's the most raced car in the United States, because you can add more power. Sure, you might be killing the reliability, which is amazing for this car, but nonetheless, you can add more power, but the handling and the weight distribution is unmatched by a lot of things in this price range. As for the convertible, up until about, we're going 50 miles per hour right now, and it's fine. Like, it is not uncomfortable. It is not messing up my hair too much. I can still talk to Mitchell in the passenger seat. I can listen to some music. The convertible is not as bad as I expected it to be. At freeway speeds, then it starts to get shaky. It starts to like mess with your hair, and I feel kind of weird with the amount of wind hitting me. If you're gonna go freeway speeds, I'd put the top up. This car is a really good example of a car that's slow, but it makes you feel fast. I feel like I'm going way faster than I am. You do not need a radar detector in this car, because you can feel like you're going fast and you can get that satisfaction, but you're not gonna get pulled over. And I think one of the main reasons for that is that the engine sounds like it's working so hard. Not in like a drony bad way, but in a, yeah, let's go, like, let's do this. It's like egging you on to keep pushing it, keep going closer to the red line. It wants you to keep going. A great explanation for how you feel driving this car is that giant smile in the front grille is exactly what my face looks like when I drive this car. All of the switches and the things that you touch the most, for example, the steering wheel, the signals, the paddle shifters, they all feel very sturdy. If you want a powerful car, this is not the car you want, unless you're willing to invest money to make it powerful. At the same time, if you're looking for a platform to build on, or if you're looking for a car that can take you through the canyons on a Sunday morning, this is definitely your car. As far as visibility, with the top down, you can see anything and everything. The only things that are blocking your view are these A-pillars, and it doesn't really block anything. You can see 360 anything. With the top up, your view is a lot more blocked. The blind spots are pretty bad, and the rear window that's plastic, it has very little space to see. But the thing is, with this car, if you're driving it with the top up, you're doing it wrong. So let's take this corner, second gear, pushing it. It does not struggle. There's a little bit of body roll, but it's like, this car is completely stock, and it can handle anything and everything you throw at it. Let's go third gear. Not even tire squeal. So let's hand it over to Mitchell to get his impressions. Hey Mitchell, what are you doing?
Put on my snazzy driving gloves.
You look great.
Thank you. It's so light. God, we're going like 4 miles an hour and it feels like it's moving quickly. That's how light this thing is. Sorry, mine just, it's heavy. That was up. I pressed the paddle for down and it went up. So that is quite an annoying thing because any racing game you play, if you have one of the steering wheels, you're used to the left for downshifting, right for upshifting. But the steering wheel doesn't have that. It has both buttons on one side, just as Oren was talking about earlier. And like, it's just weird. It's not something you are accustomed to. The ND Miata is different than this. It doesn't have this weird setup. It goes back to the traditional right-left system. And I didn't test it out, but I didn't actually drive it with it and that, but the paddles do feel very snappy. They feel good. There isn't a long draw. You just click and it goes. There's no problem with it. This car, it feels more direct. It actually feels like there's less body roll in this, even though this is a heavier car. And I'm not exactly sure how that is, but this just feels, the steering is better in this. In the ND Miata, it almost feels very light and very fluffy, I guess you could say. Where this, it feels direct. You feel like everything you're doing matters. Where in that, it's just like, okay, now I'm turning. All right, I'm turning again. There's no oomph to it. Yeah, it's a great enthusiast car, and the steering, it's a lot better than most of the cars out there. But it isn't like this. The steering on this is better. Now, in the way of style, I do like the ND Miata better. I was never a huge fan of the smiley face. That's just not me. It's a great car, but I like the more aggressive look, and I'm glad that they brought that to the ND Miata. Where this car, it is a little bit heavier. It's a 2.0 liter, and it doesn't really show. You don't feel it compared to the new Miata. Like, I really don't see there a big difference between them. So I think that wraps it up.
So now it's time to conclude our review of the NC Miata. As usual, we're going to use our 5-tier rating system, which starts off with fun. This car has a perfect 50-50 weight distribution, and the handling is amazingly precise because of that. But it lacks power, so we give it a
4.5.
Next is performance. Like I said, the weight distribution on this car is perfect, which leads to amazing track times for a car this low on power. But again, it's low on power, so we give it a
4.
Next is quality. This car was designed to be lightweight, and with everything that they did, lightweight was kept in mind. So there's a lot of plastic materials and things that are not super luxury, though I didn't expect it. But because of those plastic materials and not so great to the touch parts, we give it a
3.5.
Finally, bang for your buck. This car is amazing as far as performance and the smile that it brings to your face, just like the smile in the grill of it. So we give it a
5.
Because it does not get much better for the price that you can buy this car. So overall, we give it a
4.
And that's an amazing rating for a car this low in cost. So we also had a part that we were supposed to do individually. Mitchell is going to compare this car to the ND Miata that we recently drove, and I'm going to talk about the automatic transmission. Let's start with Mitchell.
So overall, they were very similar, but there are some very specific points that I should bring up. The steering. The NC Miata is a lot more precise. You feel it through the steering wheel a lot more, and that's because of the hydraulic steering instead of the electric steering, which the ND Miata now has. The interior quality on the ND Miata versus the NC Miata is a lot better, and that is very surprising seeing how they made the car lighter than this year's model. The power on this, although being a little bit more than the ND, it does make a difference. You feel it, just that slight, a little amount, and I think this was the right amount to put with this weight.
Now I'm going to talk about how this car is an automatic transmission as opposed to the manual transmission that most enthusiasts are looking for. I don't like the automatic transmission in this car. It shifts quickly and it shifts smoothly, but the paddle shifters are strange and foreign, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, and I don't think it's necessary to have them in this strange 2 down and 2 up design. I think that the normal right up shift and left down shift would be much better. And in my opinion, that might actually change the experience of this automatic car. It might actually make up for the fact that this car does not have a manual transmission when it comes to the track and things that you need to quickly shift. But also, a lot of the experience from this car is lost because of that transmission. You have a lot less control of the car, and I wish that this car was manual because I feel like it would add that much more to the driving experience. So in my opinion, buy a manual if you're going to buy the Miata, and if you're going to buy the automatic, why are you buying a Miata? Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to both of us. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram separately because we have separate accounts. And make sure to comment on the bottom if you have any requests for cars that we should drive or any comments that you think we could do this better. And make sure to hit that like button. Thank you. Cool. All right. Okay. Stop it.